Hello and welcome. This is the Repurpose Your Purpose podcast, and I'm Aurora Minigallo, your host. Repurpose Your Purpose is a podcast about doing work you love, whether it's something you're still searching for or you've already found your vocation and you want to grow within it. So every couple of weeks now, used to be every week, now maybe every couple of weeks, I either share something about doing work you love or invite a guest to share about their experience. And today I am super excited to welcome Izumi Tanaka. Hey Izumi.
Hi, Aura.
Thank you so much for joining me. And Izumi has her podcast as well, so you'll tell us all about it. But I'm a little intimidated here that she's a pro. How many
No,
episodes have you had? Like a ton.
I'm getting close to 100 episodes now.
Wow. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
So let me
yeah.
properly introduce you with a little bio, and then I'm going to ask all sorts of questions. Okay. So Izumi Tanaka is a green realtor and green home consultant with accreditations, including Lead Green Associate and Living Future accreditation. She specializes in sustainable and regenerative design for homes. Her background as an architectural photographer introduced her to eco friendly homes, inspiring a career shift into real estate. A passionate advocate for mindful living and environmental stewardship, Izumi shares her expertise through her podcast, Home Green Homes, and as a co chair of USGBC California's Green Home Committee. You know what I'm really excited about? That I also made a career shift from photography
That's
and I
right.
love your photography. So I wanna share it with everybody because it just really resonates with me. It's so
Oh, thank
beautiful.
you.
So my first question, before we get into, the career change, actually, what I want to really ask you about is what it means to be a green realtor. I mean, I I, I didn't even know about this before. I'm not familiar with your field. I'm really curious about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to be here. I'm really honored to talk to you. Yeah, being a green realtor is actually it's kind of mysterious. It is it's a designation issued by National Association of Realtors. That's an organization that all the real estate agents, licensed real estate agents, especially working in residential market, have to be a member of NAR, National Association of Realtors, and they have all kinds of different designation and certifications for different realtors to get, just to kind of be a specialty, have some kind of a specialty. And so green designation is just one of many designation and certification. And green realtor means that as a real estate agent, we are supposed to be an expert of what's considered green homes, and that green homes itself, the idea of green home itself is still very elusive right now. I mean, it's not very mainstream quite yet, and it's not very understood. So the designation course that we had to take to get this designation is very basic. It just talks about how we all live in the home, and how you can change your home to make it more energy efficient and environmentally friendly. And we, as a green realtor, are supposedly trained to be able to communicate that to general public, buyers and sellers, and even renters, or even developers or builders, about what would make your home buildings more sustainable, more green, more environmentally friendly. And as a real estate agent, we are supposed to be able to talk about the benefit of those homes, and therefore adding values to your homes, and possibly selling your homes quicker or for more money. So that's the specialty that we're supposed to have, and that's the green realtor designation means. But so you asked me what it means for me to be a green realtor, and I'm in Los Angeles as you are, and when I became a real estate agent 7 years ago, it wasn't something I was particularly excited about becoming a real estate agent, because there's so many agents out there, especially in Los Angeles. So I didn't want to be competing with all the other agents. So I always wanted to be I was always interested in environmental issues. So when I found that there's such thing as green designation, I said, "Oh, I'm going to take that, and I can become a green real estate agent, and that would kind of differentiate me from other agents." But it turns out that there is really no market that's like defined market for green realtors, because as a green realtor, if you're selling green homes, then we have to find green homes, and I have to find people who are looking for green homes. And it there was really not much awareness of that. So what it means to be a green realtor for me meant that I had to educate and inform, because there's not enough green homes to sell, there's not enough green buyers to buy. So I had to educate. And it also turns out that the green designation training itself was very, very basic. And I realized that I really didn't know much. So what I did was I started my podcast, Home Green Homes, so that I get to talk to all the people who really do know: architects, designers, builders, and people who does mortgages, and many other aspect of homes. What makes a home, like trade people, that the contractors that specializes in certain things like solar panels, or people who does HVAC system or water heater system, and that sort of things, that they're all different kind of specialization, right? Within just the building a home or creating a home. Landscaping people who can talk about how to make your landscape, your garden or backyard, more environmentally friendly. So I started my podcast so I get to talk to all these people so I can learn more.
I have so many questions.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
What is something that would make a home green? That's really like, I was wondering if you can give me like an example of something that would make a home green that's maybe like it's very basic, like, everybody might
Yeah.
know. But then
Hmm.
maybe an example or two is something that, I don't know, most people have no idea that's an
Yeah,
option.
yeah. It's a great question. Because a lot of times when I talk about green homes, people think of solar panels,
Mm.
right? So if you put solar panels, that makes your home green. That's not the case at all. Solar panels would be the last thing that I would even suggest to homeowners or, builders. So what makes the basically, I mean, green can be all different shades of green. There can be all different levels of making your home greener, and it can be anything so simple as changing your light bulb to LED light bulbs, as opposed to incandescent light bulbs, which uses, I don't know, multiple times more energy than LED. So if you change all your light bulbs in your home, even if you're a tenant in an apartment, that should reduce your light energy bill, electricity bill, so much, and that's kind of a shade of a green. Other things that you can consider is like water usage, right? So it could be both behavioral or facility. So you can change your faucet, your sinks and bathroom sinks or kitchen sink faucet to more water conserving fixtures. You can buy them at Home Depot, and there's a label called Water Sense, and it's kind of like a picture of a water drop that comes on the label, and you can change those things to make your water more conserving, and toilet low flow toilet, you've probably heard of it. That's a requirement nowadays in California, or especially Los Angeles. You have to have low flow toilet. That means as opposed to 5 gallons of water per flush, I think you can do it with 1 gallon of water. So you're saving water, right? So, and then things like, you know, the you can do as something that you can control is like, you don't run the water while you're brushing your teeth, or I use my shower, when you take a shower and you wait till the water's hot, I pull it in the bucket while it's running, and I use it to water my plants outside, or sometimes I use it to flush the toilet, so that it's not just going down the drain, because it's all potable water that's coming through the shower, and it's being wasted while it's being heated, right? So those things are part of like things that we can do, everybody can do. But then really, when in terms of like homes if I want to sell a green home, the most important thing is what's called envelope of your home. And envelope, so house is like a box, right? So envelope is everything that's outside that encloses the house: roof, the walls, and the bottom, like the floor. That's the envelope. And you have the windows, you have the doors, and you have the vents in the roof. And a lot of older homes, they have a lot of air leaks, like on the window sill, where when they put in the window, there's like a little crack, or and or doors, like it's if the door's not straight or something, you can see you can see a crack from inside. Even older homes, the older windows are very leaky, like drafty. So like in the winter, when it's colder outside, if you're sitting by the window and you feel the draft, that means the air is coming through. So when you want to create a energy efficient home, you make the homes airtight, and so that the air doesn't leave your home. But then if the air is tight, then you have to ventilate it correctly, so that you're not stifling inside, and you create a ventilation system that's constantly bringing in fresh air, but it's filtering so that all the toxins and like dusts and things like that are not coming into your living space. So it's more healthy. In indoor air is quite more healthy and clean, obviously, and a lot of times quiet, because if you have solid envelope, that usually means that you have good insulation, so that you don't hear a lot of noise from outside. So it's quiet, comfortable, and healthy.
So you said you've been doing this for 7 years. Did you see an increase in awareness or in interest from people?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the awareness is increasing, especially in the last few years with, we've seen COVID, we've seen all these terrible climate issues. So I think people are finally starting to understand that we are responsible. So 40% of the greenhouse gas is emitted from buildings.
40%. Wow.
40%. So if we reduce our energy usage, that's going to help, but everybody has to do it. So I think that the all these climate events happening like today, even as we speak in Florida or in that region, I mean, people are really starting to experience all the climate, severe climate events. And I think hopefully, starting to realize that, okay, I think human beings' activities have something to do with it.
Yeah, it also can create, I think, a catch-22, like a spiraling, because I was thinking in places where it gets really hot, then you want AC, and
Yeah,
then that will
yeah,
create a whole thing.
right, right.
Um, how did you get interested in this?
It's a long story, but I've always enjoyed being in the nature, and as a kid, I always loved playing outside, being, dirty, right? And and probably as long as, in my whole adulthood, I was aware of like I should be recycling, I should be, careful about certain things that I do that might cause harm to environment. But I I don't know how much far I should go back to tell you, but um, the first alarm I had was I was for a long time I was working in television, and I used to work for a lot of do work for a Japanese television, and I happened to work at Atlanta Olympic in 1996, and long story short, while everybody was chasing all the celebrity athletes, I was looking at all the trash that we were generating in the media center. So all the media had the networks had uh, offices like big, huge room in a convention center, and I was watching those 5 gallon trash can being filled like within like an hour or two, and that was like dozens of them in the room, and they were just getting filled because there were some people who were not leaving the center. They were walking indoor because they had to be doing something on the computer, watching the feed on the TV, and so they stayed. So they had all that like prepared food, like boxed, like the kind of food that you stick in the microwave, you know. So they were just eating that every day or every meal, and they'll just stick it in the trash can. So so that's I was watching that, and there was a reporter that I befriended, and he and I were like, really concerned about where is this trash going, and so we did a small piece for the TV show. We follow the trash, and we went to this. We ended up like we followed the dumpster truck and ended up in the landfill, and we saw this mound of trash, and we were like, holy shit. And that was the first kind of a alarm that I was like, oh my God, we got to do something about this, trash. And that's kind of the beginning of my journey. And it took a different iteration of my career until I got here. Obviously, as in the bio, you mentioned that I was an architectural photographer, and that was my last career before I became a real estate got into real estate. And I was an architectural photographer, and one of the first clients I had was a premier builder of prefab home builders, and their products were all sustainable. They were all LEED certified homes, and I was really fascinated about what they were doing, and I learned that there was such thing as sustainable building practice, and I started learning about it. And so by the time I decided to get licensed as a real estate agent, I knew I wanted to do something with, with that kind of homes that are, sustainably designed and built. And so that's kind of how I got to that. I'm connecting the dots from that way back in the 90s to
I actually love that you're saying this because I think one of the things that sort of bugs me about the climate change like conversation is that they always make it sound like it's news, like nobody
yeah,
knew up until
no,
yesterday. And it's like,
yeah,
I stopped eating meat in 97, and no judgment anybody eating meat because we're all different bodies. So, but I
yeah,
stopped eating meat in 1997 because I read how much like overeating on meat essentially, and the meat industry
oh
was
yeah,
really bad for the environment, right?
mm-hmm,
And that was old news then. It was new to
yeah,
me because I was young, but it was already old
yeah,
news.
yeah,
So I really feel like this information has been out for a long time. Now, maybe
mm-hmm,
the information gets better, we get more information, it changes, but
mm-hmm,
I'm really glad that you're bringing up this because, yeah, it's just one of my pet peeves.
yeah,
That it's like, yes, we need to do something, right? We need to
yeah,
be active, or we
yeah,
need to change the ways
yeah.
we behave.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
it's so complex and very vast, this whole idea or concept of, what we are talking about, because it's not just an environmental issue, it's an economical issue. It's really social issue, because the world that we live in is where we have everything, this is everything, right? And then, right now the word sustainability is kind of like a buzzword. There's a lot of business around that, and a lot of careers are being created, but sustainability at this point is already kind of
Not
passe.
yeah, not sustainable.
It's not
Right.
that being sustainable is not good enough, because sustainable means that we don't do harm. We kind of try to maintain the status quo or do less harm, but at the rate that the environment is being sort of damaged is is going faster than we can restore. So we really have to be thinking about regeneration. Like, we have to kind of be net positive about everything else, and it really encompasses everything that we do, and it's not a political issue, it's a humanity issue, and I think that the earth would be just fine. I mean, like, the whole earth history, like, it went through a lot of different time period, like it was all ice or whatever, right? So I think the earth would survive by itself, but I think humanity would probably either die out, or I don't know. We're just gonna have to do
Yeah.
something to regenerate our life, So,
I
I
want to
mean,
say so many things.
yeah,
I'm just gonna say two things here because they're top of my mind. One is that I'm gonna have actually somebody talking about degrowth on the
mm-hmm,
podcast,
mm-hmm,
and everybody's gonna be in a few episodes. But it really, because of this idea that even sustainability, it's like, as you
mm-hmm,
were saying, it's passé. We really need to think about changing our systems
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
radically if we
yeah,
want to really make a
right,
difference.
yeah,
But the other thing is that I think, when you say it's not a political issue, to me, it's like we have so many conversations from the head
mm-hmm,
instead of from the heart, from being
yeah,
present.
exactly, mm-hmm,
One thing that I really loved about looking at your photographs was the feeling, because I'm guessing here, tell me if I'm wrong, but I really got the feeling that it was almost like a meditation. It was
Yeah.
part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I
Mm-hmm.
was doing photography, one of the first books I read about it was really, I think it was The Tao of Photography or something like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And it was really about photography as meditation, as
Mm-hmm.
being,
Mm-hmm.
you cannot take a picture from your living room of something in, I don't know, Paris. You gotta go to
Mm-hmm.
Paris to take a picture in
Mm-hmm.
Paris. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to time and place.
Yeah.
And to me, a lot of the conversations where it gets very politicized, it seems to me like everybody's checking out of
Right.
being present.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like an intellectual thing, which is kind of,
Yeah.
if you want to have an intellectual conversation, that can be fun on its own, but it's
Right.
really not helpful in the real
Yeah.
world at a
Yeah.
certain point, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I love what you do. I want to ask you one more thing about what you do, and then I want to ask you more about work and stuff in general. So you don't just, one of the things, if I understand correctly, is that you consult on green
Mm-hmm.
homes. In other words, people don't just work with you if they want to buy or sell their homes. You also can
Right.
help people,
Yeah.
homeowners,
Yeah.
deal with their home now, right? As a green
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
consultant. Can you tell me more
Exactly.
about what
Yeah.
that's like?
So I mean, like, you don't know what to do, right? Like,
I definitely don't.
so because there are so many ways that you can make some changes that might help you feel better in your home and help you reduce your utility bill and reduce your footprint. And so while you're living in your home, and there's a lot of things, there's a lot of moving parts. And because of what's happening right now, that there's definitely a movement to electrify your homes, like electrify all the homes in the country, so that would take out gas burning furnace or kitchen stove or clothing dryer and such, because those are the huge emission, the CO2, right? So there are a lot of money out there that people can tap into. Like there's a tax credit, that's Inflation Reduction Act, that was signed by Biden 2 years ago. They have a whole menu of tax credit you can get. Before that, I think Obama came out with a tax credit for solar panel installation, but that was just a solar panel. And like I said, solar panel is the last thing I recommend anybody, because if you have a house that's not efficient, you're generating power on your rooftop, but you're wasting it anyway. So
Mm.
you want to make sure that your home is not wasting the energy first, and then put solar panel, right? But so Obama gave tax credit to installing solar panels on your roof, but what Biden did was they came up with a whole menu, not just the solar panel, but to put, like, replace your water heater, you replacing your clothing dryers, kitchen stove, or even windows and doors, things like that. There's a whole menu of things that you can get tax credit for. And then they also have rebate programs within the Inflation Reduction Act. And that's something it haven't rolled out. I know that New State of New York is already actively doing that, giving the rebates, but all the other states are still just, it's very complicated because you have to qualify by your income base. So each state has to set it up. So it's taking a long time to get it going, but that's going to be available soon, hopefully soon. But there are so many other rebates available. The utilities have rebates, and there's different municipalities that are offering rebates. So there's so many rebates out there that it's really hard to understand. Like, even myself, I had to replace my water heater, but, number one, it was hard. to find the unit, and number two, I had to find the right contractor, and then I had to look into all the rebates and other the tax credit and such for financial incentives. So I am trying to be the one that can do the research for you and advice for you, and also that's just the electrification part. But if somebody wants to know how to make your garden more energy efficient or environmentally friendly, I can bring in people who knows about the landscaping of native plants and things like that, or even contractors who can come and do your replace, like do a flooring or something. But there are certain materials that you want to be using to make your home more sustainable or healthy or comfortable. So I just kind of like to be the what do you call it, like a hub
Yeah, the
where I
go-to
can.
person. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I can imagine so many things from people building their house all the way
Mm-hmm.
to remodeling, making
Mm-hmm.
changes. Yeah, if
Yeah.
somebody is really passionate about this, it must be really
Yeah.
hard to keep
Mm.
up to date with everything and know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, I need to reach to people who are not passionate. You know what I mean? Like
Mm,
the people who already have that mindset is willing to do the research most of the time. But my ideal clients are people who really don't know, but they just want to do the right thing, or their concerns, like reducing the utility bill, for instance. And like if you have kids or pets in your home, you really want to make sure that the inside your home, the air quality is good, because it's believe or not, there's so much toxins in a house. Like if you cooking with gas stove, there's a lot of toxins, right? And if you're cleaning with certain kinds of products, you know, there's a lot of toxins that are harmful for your health, especially a lot of the toxic air pollutants
mm.
hang low close to the floor. So if you have small kids that are crawling around, or you have pets, on the floor, they're the one that's inhaling all the bad air.
Wow.
So that kind of thing, that I'm feeling the responsibility of educating people,
Mm.
and who there's definitely people that I call green tribe or greenies, who are more sustainably minded or green minded people. Those are easy people to convince. But the ones that are not, those are the ones that I really want to reach out to without being preachy or without being, pushy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Basically, if you're listening to this podcast and you're sort of thinking, maybe there's something more for me to do or learn, or you're starting
Yeah.
right now on
Yeah.
your awakening on the topic,
Mm-hmm.
you should talk to
Mm-hmm.
Izumi.
Thank you.
So let me shift a little bit here because
Sure.
you talked a little bit about being a career changer, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of like, you told us a little bit how you got into this, but I remember when me and you like met up and had a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, we really talked about being creative, doing many things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like a lot of careers, the narrative, here's what I hear. Okay, this is what I mostly hear. It's like before you would stay, 40 years on a job. Now it's not like that. Now people hop around, right?
Yeah.
Or might change. But I think the mentality when the career mainstream narrative is out there is still that you do one thing. You got your full-time job, maybe you're changing employer.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple of times in your life you might change careers, but essentially you're doing one thing. But
Mm-hmm.
you and I were talking about is like, well, for some of us, it doesn't work. For some
I
people,
know.
it's your brain needs to
I
do multiple things.
know. Yeah.
Some of us, like me, get that kick out of being an entrepreneur. I feel like I'm, solopreneur. I need to do so many things. It keeps me
Yeah.
busy enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, we were talking about sometimes you literally like to do multiple things. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious if you want to share some of those thoughts with everybody on my
Sure. I
podcast.
mean, I'm probably, farthest from a mainstream uh, career path, right? And I think I told you that, like, I came to America from Japan when I was 21, and the only thing I knew was that I was just going to learn English. And I had no other plan, and I didn't even have a plan to go to college. I just wanted to be in America and immerse myself so that I get to speak English. So and I never really, I think it could be my upbringing. I was not in a very academically oriented environment, both my family and my peers. So, I wasn't really thinking about like long-term goal, like academic goal or career goal. So I just kind of followed the breadcrumbs, like whatever showed up on my path, I just followed, and I think it was more intuitive following, but I would end up having some kind of, I call them angels, like somebody shows up and tells me something. Like I was in a community college studying Spanish, Spanish and art, and then I met somebody who asked me, what's your plan? And I said, I don't know. And that person said, I think you should go to university, go to transfer to university. I'm going, you think so? And then he bothered to take me to see a UCLA campus. And I'm like, wow, this is so great. I love the whole environment, And I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I applied to transfer, and I went to college, and I ended up graduating from UCLA. And it was not planned. It was just so organic evolvement. And so my life had been like that always. So even in my career, I when I graduated from college, UCLA, I had to get a job so that I can stay in the country, or for a student visa, temporary visa, and I ended up getting a green card. And as soon as I got my green card, I said, I just want to be free. I didn't want to be like I didn't want to be boxed in a job where I had to go to an office 9 to 5, so I quit the job, and then I just started doing whatever I can do to make money. And I did everything from translating to interpreting to, I did some temping, and I was a focus group moderator.
Well, I'm not gonna ask about that, but I do wanna ask again.
And and mostly I ended up working in television. And that also true, like, somebody would come along and show me the way and say, here, you should meet this person, you might be interested in doing this and that, and I just kind of followed that way. So I always had like different things going on. And I think I still do.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. It's so sad to me that we still have these narratives that if there was one type of person and that's the right way to be, and when in
Mm-hmm.
reality we have
Yeah.
many different types of people, and that's,
Yeah.
the more
Yeah.
we create a system where we can all be honored really for what we bring to the table, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. But I have to tell you though that as I get older, there's always a part of me that wonders, like, maybe I should have just had like, steady career or something like steady job or something where I would have had like some kind of a pension or
Mm.
401k or something. Because as I'm getting older, I'm facing, okay, how many more years do I want to work? And I don't have any of those pension or any like retirement plans or anything. So and then I sometimes envy some people that I know who knew like at very young age, like I'm going to be a doctor, and then they just went straight to the career path and stay with it, and they became like very well established, whatever the career was, and I sometimes envy that, but then again I think about it, I go, I don't think I could have done that. And I know you and I talked about Enneagram. So, I don't know that if I could have stayed in that kind of a path. I'm too curious about all these different things. And I just kind of like to poke around a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly, this is just my take. I really think we need to create a system that
Mm-hmm.
supports people like everybody I know
Mm-hmm.
who's been on a steady career path, the same career,
Mm-hmm.
either it was a good fit for them, like they just like it, it
Yeah.
works for
Yeah. Yeah.
them, that
Yeah.
whatever it is, or they're miserable because they're forcing themselves and
Right.
all that, right?
Right.
So I think there's a certain part of the personality where, or the innate well-being, I don't know, however you want to call it, where
Mm-hmm.
it's really, like I'm not good working a lot with my hands,
Yeah.
but you really want people who are, who can
Yeah.
build things,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need all sorts, and I don't know if we're gonna see it anytime soon, but I really would like to see a system where,
Yeah.
somebody who is more curious or needs
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
things, or
Mm-hmm.
they still can be
Mm-hmm.
supported, and have
Yeah. Yeah.
so I really appreciate you being very open about that, because I can relate, and I think a lot of people listening to this probably can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were asking about the creative part too. Like, I knew I was always a creative person. But I never really pursued a career as an artist. Although like being in the documentary production, it was somewhat creative and somewhat artistic, but it was more journalistic than artistic. And I never thought that I could make a living as an artist, but I am seeing that these days there are so many people kind of like myself, like now we there's a thing called gig economy. So a lot of people are aspiring actors and aspiring musicians. They can do other things to, support themselves. So I think, you was talking about we need to create a system. I think the world is kind of shifting that way a little bit, but I think what we need is more support.
Yeah, I don't feel so great about the gig economy, but we can have a whole other
Yeah, yeah, I
conversation about that. But I agree
know.
with you. I mean,
Hmm.
I think more and more people are waking up to the fact that, yeah,
Yeah,
there isn't
yeah,
just one way to be, and
yeah.
maybe what matters,
Mm-hmm.
is not to
Mm-hmm.
conform
Mm-hmm.
so much. So, well, okay. Let's see what else I want to ask you here. Um, all right. One thing that I wanted to ask you, that also I wanted to hear more about your photography a little bit and stuff, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
this is a good segue.
Sure.
Is your meditation, because you're a big meditator. That's a really,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sort of curious about how that has informed your work, your life, maybe your outlook on things, and maybe starting with photography, which to me had that, your photography has that feeling.
Oh, thank you. That's also a very interesting question. So I never really have had a formal training as a photographer, but both my grandfather and my father were photographer, and but I don't know if they really made a living as a photographer, but they were photo enthusiasts, let me say. And I learned how to take pictures from my father, but but it was never something that I pursued. So I always took pictures, but I was kind of like something I did on the side. And then meditation is something that I've been practicing for probably close to 25 years. And it's a refuge for me. Like, I'm always busy and I just need, I consider myself introvert. So I need a lot of me time. So I started meditating, you know, as many people do, like when life gets tough, like you need something to hold on to. And I just needed some kind of a spiritual practice. And that's how I got into meditation. And I think it was around the same time, actually, that I started to like say to myself, like, I want to get better at my photography a little more, and it I still didn't have any intention to be a professional photographer, but but I wanted to kind of get better at to being a photographer or taking pictures. And so I started taking different classes here and there, nothing like no like degree or anything like that. I would take a class from a community college here, or maybe a extension class there, or I don't think back then we didn't have too many online classes. But that's how I so those of my meditation practice and my photography practice were kind of going parallel, but not consciously relating to each other. But then when that's another whole long story, but something happened in my life that kind of I'm just going to say that I had a somebody important in my life committed suicide,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and that kind of got me to turn in a lot. I happened to be going to a meditation retreat, and had to do a lot of reconciling, and at that time I can't remember if I was already being an architectural photographer, but I started to kind of I got involved with organization, the photography organization in LA, and started to expose myself with many other like amazing photographers, and started to create my own images that intentionally. And as it turns out that I like images that, like you said, makes me feel calm. So I tend to create pictures that are still, like it's not busy, and like I like a very stilling images, like quieting images. So that's how I end up taking the kind of pictures that you think you've seen on my website. Yeah,
How did
I don't know if
25
that
years of
makes.
meditation change your life or change you?
Um, that's another great question. So, it's not something that's going to change your life like in the big bang moment. Like it's a very gradual process, like you practicing your meditation every day. And there are some moments where I feel like, oh my God, that was a profound insight, or something happens in your meditation. But it's like a accumulation of your awareness of how you relate to yourself, like how I'm relating to myself, especially thoughts that are not very kind to myself. Like I often catch myself feeling critical about myself, not feeling of not enough, not I don't deserve. All those all those thoughts are always hovering around, but my meditation practice helps me to see that instead of getting involved in those thoughts and go down the rabbit hole of believing it and feeling like I don't deserve, or but having the mindfulness helps me, the awareness helps me that, oh, that's just a thought. So I don't have to believe, my thoughts often. Like I have like something, there's some kind of a stimulus or some kind of a trigger that you have a knee-jerk reaction to, like feeling angry, for instance, or getting sad, or shocked or something. And the thought will come, the first thoughts usually very aggressive thoughts, and then if I can just kind of not react to that and sit with it, I can see that, oh, that was just a passing thought. I don't have to believe that, and then choose something more kind and gentle, but it doesn't always work. But over the years, as I've been meditating, I go to retreats where you sit in meditation all day for days. I love that. I love having that time so that I kind of recalibrate my brain in some ways so that I'm not always reacting to everything that's happening around me.
I think this is one of the best explanations I've gotten
Oh,
of
really?
the benefit. Yeah, I feel like after I study, I don't meditate nearly as much as you do. I mean, really like,
It's
but
okay.
yeah,
It's okay.
but I feel like the change, like what, how can I say this? I think before I had some practices of mindfulness
Mm-hmm.
or meditation, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know I could be in that space that you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
after I discovered that, which I think for people, it's not that hard to discover when you're
Mm-hmm.
pointing in that direction. And for some
Mm-hmm.
people, maybe, you enjoy the long retreats, but most people don't even need to concern with them. Like
Right.
you can have very, very small practice. And
Yeah.
once you awaken to that,
Yeah.
once I awakened to that, it seemed crazy. I had never
Mm-hmm.
before without like I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I was a crazy person before. Like I was just
Mm-hmm.
reaction, believing my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed even crazier that I went through such amazing education on all sorts of things
Yeah.
and nobody bothered to
Yeah.
explain to me how to sit behind my thoughts so I wouldn't react. Right?
I
Like it just
know.
seems like what?
Yeah.
So I just love what you explain because I think a lot of the times people, I don't know, they make it sound meditation. I don't know what it's gonna bring to you, but it's like that is life changing.
Yeah.
You just described.
There are so many kinds of ways of meditating, and I just happen to practice the meditation that's called insight meditation, vipassana. And you know, the word mindfulness is very mainstream today,
Hmm.
and that whole movement is based on that particular tradition. So there are other meditation where you're really supposed to empty your mind, right? But then that's really hard. I think I've tried like Zen meditation too, but they're great in its own way. But I think the reason that the word mindfulness has become such a everyday word is because we're all realizing that it's all about being aware of what we are thinking,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my practice, mindfulness practice, is the the objective is not to empty your mind when you're meditating. The objective is to really observe what's going on, you know, in your mind, body,
Mm-hmm.
emotions, everything. Because you know you're sitting most of the time when you are meditating, you're still, you know, your body is still, but you still have sensations in the body. You still have, you know, your mind is always thinking, and then there's always feelings going on, and by being still, you just get to observe it. And so if you develop the awareness of, you know, what's going on, to be able to observe what's going on, you would start to see the cause and effect of, like, okay, when I'm thinking this, like when I get this kind of thoughts, I feel hot in my body, or all the relative causality of, you know, what's going on. So I got lucky because I had explored different meditation before, but somehow this one stuck, and I've been practicing that, and I have been leading groups to meditate, and it's been a very important part of my life, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And
Hmm.
maybe it's back to the conversation we were having about we're all different. And so there's
Yeah.
different my theory about that is that there's different meditations or approaches to
Hmm.
this because literally
Exactly.
people have different brains,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
How beautiful. All right. Okay, let me see what else I want to ask you. All right. Before I ask you my last question,
Hmm.
it's a tradition on this podcast to ask everybody, what does inner wisdom mean to you?
Inner wisdom. Hmm. That what does it mean to me? Inner wisdom is probably, hmm. You should have told me to think about that.
I told you.
Okay. Inner wisdom, did you tell me? Okay, I'm sorry. Inner wisdom is definitely something that we should all be able to tap into. I think we all have that, but I think it requires practice to be able to tap into that. And I think meditation definitely helps. And for me, I think in addition to meditating, I want to be able to have outlets, whether it's my photography or my writing or my physical activities. I love being in the nature. Be able to have that kind of openness in my spirit or mind or soul allows me to tap into that inner wisdom. I don't know if that's a
Beautiful.
good answer.
Every answer is a good answer, I just love to
Yeah,
hear what everybody
yeah.
says. All right, so my last question is, what are you working on right now? How can people get in touch with you to find more about your consulting?
Um, Probably the best is to go to my Home Green Homes website. That's where I have all my podcast. You can find my podcast episodes, and it's Home Green Homes. Like the second home is plural.com, and that's where you can find me about the consultancy, and yeah, and listen to all the podcast episodes. Oh, it's both on video, YouTube, and any podcast platforms: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Music, Amazon Music, all the most of the mainstream podcast platform would have it, but I think I would like people to use the Apple Podcast, so you know, to get the stats. And then my photography is on izumitanaka.photo.
I will put all the links in the
Yeah.
episode notes so people
Mm-hmm.
can find you, and remind me if I forget the Apple Podcast. Remind me. I'll make sure I'll put that link
Yeah.
and I send you.
Actually, actually, if you go to izumitanaka.com, that's the hub of all the things I do.
All the things.
Yeah,
There you go,
including
to
the real
make it
estate
easy.
and yeah, real estate and podcast and photography.
Yeah, and Home Green Homes is such an amazing resource for people
Mm-hmm.
to really learn more about
Mm-hmm.
what you do, and having a green home, and then a great complement to then, hire you for more
Yeah.
individualized help where you can go.
Yeah.
Do people need to be local to you for you to help, or can you help
No, not
remotely?
necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great to know. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're not in LA, it still
Yeah.
works.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say American continent,
okay,
because I don't know, how things are in different countries, so
yeah.
probably
We
American
need
continent.
sound limitation here.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Izumi, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for going along with the flow of my
Thank you. Thank
questions here
you.
as they came to
No,
you in the
no, it was
conversation.
great. And I have to tell you that I came as I am. I didn't put my makeup on. It's just like I didn't mess with my hair. I just kind of came just as I am.
I love it to have an authentic conversation.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. That was good. Thank you so much, Aurora.
Thank you. And if you're listening to this and you want to find out more about me, my name is Aurora Menegallo, and you can find everything about repurposeyourpurpose.com. And have a wonderful day, everyone.